I mean, for those of you watching on Spotify, I mean, the world hasn't even loaded for Sam yet, so he's still, it's still
I'm
early
still
for
on the
him.
loading screen right now.
Yeah, he's still waiting to
Um,
enter into the day.
and no, we had, other weekend events going on, some frisbee stuff. Who knows? Maybe we'll touch on it on Frisbee Corner. But that was definitely not the
Oh,
most interesting sports stuff going on this week. Shout out. Let's start off with the NBA playoffs. Of course, we're going to talk about what is going on after what it tends to be, the most games in the playoffs with the first round coming to an end for all the series except for the Cavs Magic series with the Cavs losing last night to the Magic on the road, I believe. But each of the other series are done and sealed. I guess, Rem, which series for you was the most interesting or most surprising?
the most interesting series was definitely the Knicks Sixers. I think, is that the right pick?
Yeah.
Did I get that answer
Yeah.
right? I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I guess Bucks Pacers was pretty fun as well too. I mean, Lakers Nuggets. I mean, I think it was a pretty good first round in general. I
Yeah.
know some of the series were over a lot shorter. Like, it's not like we got a bunch of 7 game series, but I did feel like most of the games were super competitive. Again, like the teams were super, super close. And I mean, like the Knicks Sixers series, for example, a lot of those games, I think Stephen A said at one point, I forget if it was at halftime during a game or like at first take, but there was only like 2 points separating the teams, like total for the entire series. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but
Wow.
like going into the game, it was like the Knicks had scored like 534 points and the Sixers had scored 532 or something like that. Like that's just how close it was. And it felt like maybe outside of Pelicans Thunder and I guess Heat Celtics as well too, but it did feel like a majority of the series were pretty close, pretty competitive. I get once Kawhi went down, the Mavs,
Yeah.
Clippers, the was a little one sided, but I still felt like the Clippers were at least there was a case for him to be in it and winning. So I thought it was a great first round overall. But yeah, I would definitely probably say Knicks Sixers was the most interesting, and now it's going to be Knicks Pacers in the second round. So
Mm,
I
yeah.
mean, was that Sixers team? They're not better than the Celtics, but is that like the next best team they could have faced if Giannis is out of the picture in the East and it's just a Dame led Bucks team? Is the Sixers with Embiid like the best possible opponent that the Knicks could have even have played at that point in the playoffs? And they've already gotten past them, and now they're in the Pacers in the second round. Like, are the Pacers going to challenge them?
I mean, I don't know if the Pacers defense is kind of rocky. And I think I did like how they were able to even though it took 6 games, but I do like how they were able to, pretty much lean into their scoring, the Pacers. So, leaning into their strengths. And I mean, of course, if Giannis is out there or, playing each of those games, it, definitely becomes a lot more of a question of what what happens in terms of them winning. But I do like from the Pacers how they do have a balanced scoring. Obi Toppin is the one who, led him in an elimination game to win. It's not like the in-season tournament where it's all on Tyrese to get the wins for them and secure it. But that does not hide their defense and how atrocious it has been. I think only the Clippers have been worse in the postseason. And it's gonna really come to light with the Knicks, who are they take advantage of everything. Like the Knicks are, it's very few times you see them let things slide. Like it's a very fast, hard
Mm.
hitting team. They may be a little bit undersized, but they are a team that, their 3-point shooting is what honestly is the one of the main things that came off the page for me in this past series. Just with the number of, I mean, it made sense with the number of guards that they had out there. But it's just I mean, it's the first time that the Knicks are going through into the second round consecutive years since 2000. And I think, yeah,
Would it have been those
Brunson's,
like early 2000s teams with Spreewell? Or
yeah, I
did the
mean,
Mellow
Bernard
teams
King.
get back-to-back second round appearances?
I don't think so because Melo was in the
I
2000s,
know,
right?
I know Mello got at least one second round appearance, but back to back, I don't know if he ever
Yeah,
pulled the back to back. But that team
exactly.
that made the finals would have done it probably before the Ewing teams,
No, yeah,
but
they
more
did.
recently.
And then, Brunson right now is on a tear as a Nick. First Nick to score 40 points or more in three straight games since Bernard King. Um, and first to do it since Jordan to close out a series. So, and
Mm.
since Jordan in his rookie year. So I don't,
Okay,
Jalen Brunson,
so
he's
so for the Knicks,
Orison.
for the Mello run, they did Easter. They lost first round, and then the semis, and then
Okay.
just missed the playoffs for all those years up until Brunson went in. And then yeah, if you go back into the 90s, it's all the way. The last two teams were the team that made the conference, the team that made the finals
Yeah.
in the year after they made the conference finals, but then like way before that as well too, conference Eastern semis, finals, semis, finals. So I mean, obviously, competitive team in the 90s, but yeah, that would have been the last team to do it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And yeah, I don't see a world where the Pacers are slowing down the Knicks. And I definitely could see the Knicks with they know their rotation, their tight lineup. I think they also, showed with Mitchell Robinson that they have the size to defend the paint. And um yeah, I'm not, we're gonna have to see with I mean with the Pacers, they didn't really I mean they faced the Bucks without Dame for a couple games as well. So, you know,
That's one of the ones
I'm
they
not
lost.
putting yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, so it's tough to put much stock into the series win. I mean, when TJ McConnell is leading your team, like,
He was
it's a
kind of cooking
little
though.
he was kind of cooking. He was kind of cooking, but it's a little tough to put stock into their win. While the 76ers or the Knicks just, knocked out the 76ers with Embiid, who, was a little, did have his injuries, was banged up, which is why they lost the series in the first place. But also Tyrese Maxey, who was putting up, crazy numbers. I mean, that's a legit playoff team that they knocked out. So I think it's pretty obvious that the Knicks are going to beat the Pacers. Um, but it would be interesting to see what kind of guard battles we get between Brunson and Halliburton. If Halliburton can finally explode here, because I think I mean, I
Brunson
haven't
and
seen him.
McConnell. McConnell's the
I
one on the
know.
heater right now.
You're right. You're right. That's the point.
Wait, you mentioned
McConnell.
Maxi. Can we go back to the Sixers quickly? Like,
Yeah.
how good were they especially with Giannis out? Like, were they potentially the other best team? Was this the next best team besides Boston in this series? Like the winner of this series
Um, in the
in the
East, I
East?
don't think so. I mean, let's see here. They have who's still in here. I mean, I think especially I mean, with Dame, I think it's a legitimate argument,
That's what I'm
but
saying.
I
Without
mean,
Giannis,
yeah. Yeah, without Giannis, but with Dame, I mean, I think it's close. I think the Cavs have something to say about that. I mean, with Mitchell, not now they're, the Magic are having them go back and forth, but I mean, that's a decent Magic team. I don't, it's really close. I think it is really close. It is an interesting argument. And yeah, I really wish Dame hadn't gone out. But it's I mean, it's the East. The East, as we know, is a quite big mess behind the Celtics. It's just and now you take a superstar off when one of the teams with a team of solid players. It's close, but who knows? I mean, do you think Giannis is coming back?
to Milwaukee in general.
Yeah.
Well, did you see the quote? So I saw like on the ticker on ESPN when I was watching first. I don't remember what show it was on, just like on the bottom line where it
Yeah.
said that he was going to have to reevaluate something in the summer. But I think he was talking more about his approach because he's gotten hurt the last couple of years. And like the quote I saw maybe alluding to that, where it's like, okay, can I change my approach so I'm actually able to stay healthy for these playoff runs? And even go back to the when they won the finals, like he got hurt in that playoff run. And I think it was in the conference finals. He like thought he like broke his leg at one point, like his knee just super hyperextended. It looked like he was just going to be
Yeah.
out, but returned and was able to obviously power through and win the finals. But even in the finals, I believe got hurt again. So hasn't been healthy for any of these playoff runs. So obviously, but if he's going to be reevaluating that, we know he's going to be reevaluating the situation because he did it last summer. And I know that Dame was his guy, but Dame was obviously like stuff was like the stuff that was going on was like the off court stuff. I don't think it was like clearly affecting him. So that can't be underrated. But
Yeah.
do you actually think that he doesn't like being in Milwaukee, like the city and living there? Because
No,
that was
I
like
don't
the
think he
other
has
kind
any
of
issues with it.
okay. Because that was like the other thing people thought they were picking up in the quotes as well, too, was like, is Milwaukee an issue? But I mean, it was clear. It's like, okay, it's very clear that some of the personal stuff, it's like, that's not good. And if we're like, we're being realistic and bringing real life into it, it's like, okay, that is probably going to mess with your head a little bit. So it makes sense. But like, so you think like next year he is actually happy with the situation. And if he's a year removed from these personal things, then and he's in a little bit of a better headspace, like he'll just be back to being that type of player because I don't know if the relationship is bad with with Milwaukee. Obviously, like that's a thing that can't be repaired unless he's actually removed from the situation. Versus, as time goes on, the personal stuff is still going to be rough, but it will, eventually clean itself up and he'll get his life back together. But you think he is long term like happy being in Milwaukee with Giannis?
I don't know if long term, or you mean Dame or
Dame, yeah.
no, yeah, I don't think we can bank on it long term. I mean, think since 2021, I mean, Giannis, they're out in the second round 2022, and then the first round the last 2 years. And for a team that, really saw themselves to repeat or even be close, I mean, it's just not how it works. And I mean, I think the Dame trade is a classic example of what happens when players want to play GM. When they, we've seen
Mm,
this with LeBron, where they want to play with their buddies, and then you realize, maybe it isn't translating into winning basketball. And, shout out to Dame for getting that, one playoff win, where he scored 35 in one half and then zero in the next. And, I know he had a couple games and then he was out. So he was injured himself. But I do think that, yeah, it is a concern long term about what how the Bucks move forward because I mean, right now they're definitely on a stopwatch, like a time. There's a timer. Like it's not. Giannis made it clear last year that he's not just going to blindly follow these guys into battle and just stay with the team and they can do whatever. Um, and I really am concerned about, his health, and I know he is too. That's what you mentioned with the quote is that, maybe rest wasn't you rest, and
okay, yeah.
just actually sit out because I remember Doc Rivers mentioning something about him being really, really close to playing. And then, later on, he says that he really wasn't close to playing. Giannis says there was no way he was actually going to play.
Yeah, I think
Um,
he was probably, if they were being smart, he's probably out for the playoffs, right? Because that's an
yeah,
Achilles injury waiting to happen.
yeah, no, it is. So, yeah, I mean, it's back and forth. And it's not like Dame had a horrible playoffs. Or, he was out for two of the games, but in the four games he played, he averaged about, 31 points, 5 assists, 42% from the field, 41 from three. So, isn't not necessarily a bad, but only one win out of those four games that he played. So, it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks reinvent, hopefully to, come back next year stronger than ever. But and I'll give it to I think the main thing I'll take away from this series for this team that will give some hope is that Chris Middleton is still legit. He's still a very
Like
productive
all-star legit,
playoff.
legit playoff guy.
Well, yeah, legit playoff guy. I think, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was pouring the dirt over his career. I was calling it, and he definitely turned it. He showed some things in this playoff. I mean, yeah, game three, even though he lost, having those 42 points,
Mm-hmm.
29 points in the game five win, I mean, he was rebounding the ball really well. Let's see here. Yeah, averaged 24 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 48% from the field.
Okay.
90% from free throw, 35 from three. I mean, he was putting up some
I mean, that's
legit
back. That's
stats.
basically back.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what more you have to do.
Yeah. So if there's some light, you at least know you got a second, third option, a really good. So I mean, they have a really good big three when you think about it. Yeah, I'll just have to see if they can get some depth, get some pieces around them. But if I'm Giannis and I see how well Chris is playing, you got cash money Chris back. I think this team has a legit chance, and maybe the best chance out of all the teams that have been eliminated.
Well, you mentioned you mentioned that Dame trade about what happens when superstars play GM, but not only did they give up Holiday in that trade, they also gave up Grayson Allen as well, too, who had a career year this year. If they just, put his 3-point shooting on this team, who knows what that does for them in a playoff run. But like the thing with Dame and the thing with a lot of these star guys, it seems like right now, we've mentioned like just how many, like we said like a couple episodes ago, there's 50 Hall of Fame player legacy type guys playing around. Like I think going back to that, we didn't even mention guys like Chris Paul as well too, who is still technically in the league, counts as a Hall of Famer
Yeah.
playing. So, but just like the amount of talent that's in the league, like all of these guys, the shot making capability is there. Like you see it with Brandon Ingram, you saw it with Kawhi this year. I think you see this with Dame, but they're like just there needs to be a connectivity thing, and that's chemistry, obviously. But like there was just times with Dame where it just felt like his shot making and his picking his spots wasn't necessarily in cohesion with the rest of the offense. And there was times, especially in the
Exactly.
last couple of games, where when Chris Middleton was really cooking and it was okay, I get Giannis is not out there, but at least Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis, those guys have played together. And there was times when they were doing like a 3-man thing and Dame is just kind of off on the side doing his own thing. If he doesn't really have the ball, he's just kind of standing there. And I guess, he's still going to space the floor, but
Yeah.
and again, I think you saw that with Brandon Ingram a little bit where I thought he had problems picking his spots. And I thought Kawhi Leonard as well, too, where, I mean, defensively, he can ramp it up. And I get, he's going to give you the two-way thing. And there's just enough individual talent on that Clippers team that when they're all out there, they've been able to make that work to some degree. But him picking his spots in the offense, I felt like was a little off. So if there is just like vibes, if people on the internet are picking up bad vibes about Dame in this situation, like Giannis is around him every day. So he is probably, if there are vibes, he is probably picking up on them too. So
Yeah.
the other thing with this Bucks situation though is if like you actually want to win the title, you really like can't change any of the pieces unless it's like just unless you're getting like, I don't know, Steph or something like that. But I mean, you can't just make a coaching change at this point because you already did it last year. You can't trade Dame unless he requests a trade. You can't just do it to mix things up or even really Middleton again, unless you're getting like a super upgrade because you need that certain level of chemistry and reps together. And again, with the coaching change, you only got a half a season of this run. Doc was only there for a half a season. You need to put in that time together. So this is like kind of it. This is their team, unless they're able to get some like bench guys or something like that. So that's what I'm saying. If Giannis is like, well, maybe with this team, I'm not going to win the title, then obviously he's going to look somewhere else. But maybe like you're saying, is Chris Middleton like the saving piece now all of a sudden that swoops in? Because the whole time we've been talking, that's kind of been another point about it too is, oh, Dame is not happy and Chris Middleton and like the other guys around him seem to be tapering off a little bit. But if Chris Middleton is back? Is that like Giannis is like, okay, at least I have a buddy I can go to war with?
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think that it does translate into that because, like you mentioned, Dame is still figuring out the office, figuring out where he fit, and they've never had like at least this run of the Bucks team. They've never had a Dame kind of player. You know, they've had spot up shooters like Pat Connaughton. They've had other players. You know, Brooke Lopez. They've had some like players who can spot up and shoot, but not really.
But
You know,
Holiday doesn't need the
dribbling.
ball too either, like that.
Exactly.
Pause.
And not like pick up and dribble and shoot kind of team. And so even Chris Middleton, you know, he's very much someone who focuses on his inside game, you know, inside the 3-point line. And it's, yeah, but I think looking at how they played these last couple games with Lopez, with Portis, you know, getting that win, I think at home to extend the series, I think shows, you know, that there is some real fight in this team. It's still a lot of that championship roster. And they honestly can run it back. I think they have
Mm,
one or two pieces to run it back. And you know, you obviously worry about what Philly is gonna add this next
yeah.
offseason. But I mean, when you have someone like Giannis, there's no other option but running it back. That's kind of what you have to do. So obviously Dame's contract is gonna continue to be a anchor for this team. It's gonna definitely hurt in terms of finances, but I really liked what I saw from them. And, you know, besides the Clippers who lost their number one option or their number one superstar, you know, also lost their superstar. I mean, they're the only other top seed eliminated. So, you know,
Yeah, because
it
the
is
Pelicans would have been a
interesting.
lower seed.
Yeah. So it is interesting to see all the that there are actually very few upsets besides, you know, the teams that lost their main superstars.
Mm, that's true. And that's kind of what we were saying too at the beginning with how like it was all competitive. But yeah, I guess you're right too.
Yeah.
The top teams were able to get through and win. I guess I'm trying to think of where the upset would he even have been. Would it have been in the Boston Miami series if Butler had played? Like,
Mm.
how impressed were you with Boston's winning that series? I get they you know they laid the smackdown pause on in the last game. I think it was like the
Yeah.
was it the largest loss for Miami in their history? Top five for sure. Not a good look for the
Yeah.
Miami Heat in that game, but was it like
No,
an
it's
impressive
a huge
Boston series
loss.
win?
I mean, I think losing LeBron in his prime has to be, you know, somewhere on that top five list of losses for Miami. But
Well, yeah, I meant losses by points, not like actual losses.
yeah, I didn't know if you meant, yeah, Jimmy Butler being out. No, I mean, it definitely would have been a more interesting series, but I think there is sneaky big amounts of evidence of why the Heat made it with the finals without Hero, because of how bad his
Oh,
defense was during this series. And, you know, it's one of those things where you can't bench him because he's kind of all your offense, but at the
especially
same
with
time,
Butler out,
he's
yeah.
hurting your defense. Yeah, especially with Butler
And
out.
they didn't have Rozier either. So I mean,
Yeah.
you're down to here. Like heroes, what you got at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would have been interesting if they had Rozier and Butler. I think they definitely could have benched Hero because then you know you could just have Duncan Robinson or someone else play be that shooter. But yeah, I don't yeah, they had zero chance without Butler and with him, you know, maybe they get a game or two, but I really think that this Celtics team is just super talented and you know, Zingas should come back sometime during the next series. We'll see, but I'm not too surprised they handled business. The only game that the Heat won, they had a franchise record in threes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a playoff record or just franchise, but they just
I
hit
think
a
it was just
stupid
their
amount of threes.
franchise. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's I don't think yeah, besides a crazy I don't think there was any worry. Now, if you're the Heat, I don't, you know, I mean, do you just run it back? Like, are you trying to change anything at all? I mean, Jaime Jaquez
Well, I know what you're
is
alluding to.
legit,
Is do you want to get
so
hero? Like, is that what you're trying to allude to? Is it hero? Is that the move? You're already
I
sending him
mean,
to the bench with Rozier there.
who would you trade him for? I mean, do you bring in Trey Young, another young
You're
guy? I
reading
mean,
my
I
mind. I was
don't
looking through
know.
the teams right now.
Like, I don't know. Do they need a trade at all? Or do they just need to have another ridiculously great draft?
Can they get a star in this draft at that spot? I haven't. I
I don't
just
think
started
so,
doing the
but
draft homework, so we haven't got
yeah.
quite that far down the list yet. But I don't know if Hero for Trae Young. I don't know if there's enough there for either of the teams to. That'd be a tough one to pull off. But like you're saying, I don't know if
Yeah.
Hero like would they have been better off with his value because he didn't necessarily shoot the ball well, but like you're saying, he had to play. So because he didn't
Yeah.
get benched, it's like, okay, he still is kind of holds the same value as a player as he did, I think, going into the series. But I don't know if it necessarily dipped down that much. But I mean, once they
I
get
mean, a
Butler
little
back,
bit, but yeah,
I
I
think they
mean, I
really
think the
honestly
people
need
knew what
Bam
the
to
deal
like,
was.
they need Bam to go up another level.
Yeah. No, I mean they do.
Mini
And this is
level?
something I have mentioned with Bam is that his scoring, like he needs his scoring should have been like taking a little bit of a step. Like if the amount of games he's played and like what we want him to be, like he's like Jason Tatum light. Like,
Hmm.
he in terms of his situation, like Tatum, um, obviously he has the star, upper crust star level, all-star level scoring, but we don't have he doesn't that scoring doesn't translate to the clutch moments that would push him to that top five, MVP level star. And right now, Bam is stuck at that, decent player and not really he hasn't put it together to score to be an all-star, to be, one of the better big men in the league. And his defense has been on that level. I mean, he's been a great defender, but it just seems like he's one or two, maybe it's aggression, maybe, taking the shots, maybe who knows what it is. But
Yeah.
he definitely needs to take another step because when he's aggressive and he's scoring, the Celtics can't stop him, and pretty much no one else can either.
Is there like a little, could you do like a Hero for Clay sign and trade type of thing? Is there anything
Mm.
there?
Is
Hero would be a
Clay even worth it?
little bit cheaper if you want to, do a slight Clay overpay. I don't know. I'm just trying
I,
to
I,
think of something for Hero.
I don't. I mean, I don't know about Clay. I think Clay is definitely going to get overvalued in this next offseason. Um, I think he's definitely, it's just I understand the resume, but it's definitely paying for past performance. Um,
Miles
Apparently
Bridges,
that.
can you get another Hornet?
Mm, okay, Miles Bridges not. That is interesting. That
I
is
don't know. Do you
interesting.
what would you do if you're a GM looking at Hero as a trade, trying to trade for him? Like, is he how valuable is he to you?
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
What do you think you're
people are
bringing in?
putting him in the Dame trade.
Are you bringing in a guy? Are you bringing in like your sixth man,
Paul George, I don't know, sign a trade.
Paul George?
Yeah,
Is
he's doing
Hero
like
like
Hero,
how much
some
better is
like
Hero than
Mitchell
Malik Monk?
Robinson. He is. I think he's significantly better.
Oh,
I think
okay.
he's definitely. I mean, I think when you watch, I mean, he can actually run the offense. Like him on the offensive side, I don't really have issues with him running the offense. It's just his
Okay.
defense has been pretty bad. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Like
yeah,
Malik Monk is like hit or miss. Like
yeah, six man
not
heat
really
check
depending on
guy.
it. Yeah.
More you're using it more off of screens too as well. Like you're saying, Hero can use the offense, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Tatum like had like a good all round series, but he just didn't shoot the ball well, and he honestly didn't even shoot the ball like a ton. There was one game where he took like 9
Yeah.
shots, which was I mean kind of
And
fun
he
to
didn't
see.
have to.
Yeah, but I mean that's because
You
Derek
know.
White is like leading the playoffs in points right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why for people who are trying to compare like Tatum and Boncaro's stats and are like, oh, it's like, they're two totally different situations, right? Like it's just not
Yeah,
like
are
that.
there certain Celtics people and certain Magics people talking about their star players? That's kind of what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
I just saw like a graphic that was like, oh, we need to have a conversation about Paulo. It's like he's playing great, but he's kind of like the only guy on that team who can actually score because
Well,
Franz
Franz
can
is like
only hit a three a game.
Franz has dipped a little back into the scoring thing. He had the 30-point
Yeah.
game, and then I think him, Paolo, and Suggs all had 20 in this last game, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm.
against the Cavs, which is why the balance was why they were able to pull out the win. Because I mean, Mitchell was just going back into one of those old playoff games where it was like him and Murray in the bubble again, where he scored 50, scored every point for the Cavs in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Paolo, watching him, it's just, I really like seeing this playoffs has definitely been a little bit of a coming out party for him. And if he and that team can get it done in game 7, that'd be crazy. Just already knowing with Mitchell being out on this team,
Yeah,
it's insane.
no offense,
And he's
Cleveland, but we want to see the Magic in the second round.
yeah, no, we do.
And
We
this
do. I
team
mean,
needs the playoff experience. Like we're saying, Cleveland, you're not even going to be together next year. You don't even need
they're
this
not.
run.
They're not. Are we done with Mobley? I mean, are we
Mm,
where are we with Mobley?
I think Mobley's still a fine player, right? And I would still even say in that draft, let me pull that draft back up. I'd still say he was probably, it's not like it was a bad pick. I mean, because
Yeah, I mean,
Jalen Green, they took over Mobley. And I don't even know, even with the way Jalen Green was revived this year, I don't know if that's like set in stone as a better pick. Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs. I don't know. Maybe the Jalen Suggs revival. This series, is that draft? Jalen Suggs versus Evan Mobley?
that
And you've got Franz
is
too in
funny.
that draft. I forgot they got both those guys in this
Oh,
in the same
wow.
draft. Trey Murphy at
And
17.
I know, of course, and I know Mobley had the big play in the series, getting that block on Franz Wagner, which was a great block, to win, game 5. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say, I don't know, but
This would
yeah,
be a fun draft to go back and redraft at some point because you got Trey Murphy at
yeah.
17, Sven Goon at 16, Herb Jones at 35. And
I thought
remember,
we
your
did
one,
we
two,
not
three
do
is
that?
Cade, Jalen Green, and Mobley. So it's not like, again, it's not like those guys are confidently number one. Like a Cade Herb
Wait,
Jones debate.
which year did we redraft? I know we
We
redrafted one
did
of them.
we did the Shea Doncic draft. So we did 2018,
Oh, 2018. And this one's the 2021.
2021.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no,
Kaminga at 7.
I just, Mobley, it's just for how high Mobley was taken. Um, I don't know. I don't know if we need to talk
I think
about
your
him. And
guy
shout out
BS
to
called
Mitch.
him Tim Duncan, and that's kind of what messed
Yeah.
him up.
Yeah, I mean, last night, 1 for 5 from the field, 3 points, 7 rebounds. Shout out to Mitchell, 50 points, still not enough.
No, but
Uh,
defensively, Mobley has kind of
but
been, you
yeah,
know, been there. So I still wouldn't give up
no,
on
he's been
that.
there. Yeah, no, I mean, but you for that high pick, you're
Maybe
expecting a
he's
two-way
maybe
player.
he's Jonathan Isaac
I
and
don't
not Tim Duncan.
know.
Unfortunately,
Just a little downgrade. Let's see. But who do you think is winning this series? Game 7,
Game 7 is
Cleveland.
tomorrow, Sunday. Um,
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. 10 a.m. They really hate this series. Oh my
is it
gosh.
what network is it on? Is it even ESPN?
And it's ABC. At least it's
Oh, okay.
ABC.
So they put it on the networks. Is there like a WNBA? Are they putting WNBA preseason on? What's going on the rest of the day? F1? Isn't there F1 in the morning?
Yeah,
That
there's
might be
F1, but
that might be like early
it's
morning though.
the only one they put on networks is the Miami race, and I think it's
Isn't that the one that's on though?
let me see. I've been watching going through the show. Shout out.
Is there a new season?
No. Oh, it is Miami. You're right. No. Well, yeah, there's last season on
Is
there.
it tomorrow?
Yeah, I guess you're right. It is tomorrow.
What
Shout out
time?
Rem. Uh, it's 1 p.m. my time, so 2, 3 for you.
Oh, so the Grand Prix is what's on afterwards. Okay, so that does make sense a little bit.
Mm.
So this
Yeah,
game is getting bumped for the Miami Grand Prix.
that's crazy. They just hate this series. But who do you have? The right now the line is Cleveland minus 3.5.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Hmm. I feel like the value play is just to go with the underdog, but
yeah,
they couldn't. The thing is, they honestly could not stop Mitchell in that game. And Mitchell was like the point where
yeah,
it, I mean, we all know like when you're playing 2K and you get the one shot release where you just don't have to think about it
yeah.
and you can just, green it every time. I don't know if you have to pause release, you don't have to think about, but that was what
Oh
that
my
was what
gosh.
Mitchell was in that game against the Magic. I mean, it was just every time he was going to the basket, every jump shot, it was going, oh yeah, this is going in. This is money. He's got it. So if Garland shoots better at home, Mobley shoots better at home. No Jared Allen though. I think he's probably still out. Ooh, I'll go with the Cavs. I think it's close. I think it's ugly. We don't want to see it, but I'll pick Cleveland.
I think that is actually kind of a smart pick because I definitely while Mitchell, yeah, could score whatever he wants, there are some concerns on my end in terms of having that whole team scoring. Getting your teammates involved, but especially when you don't think they're gonna be your teammates after this playoff season. But the Cleveland is the smart pick because the Magic have been 2-0 at home and 0-3 on the road in this series. So, I guess 3 at home, 3 on the road. So they've won each game at home, lost each game on the road, and game 7 will be on the road. So, it makes sense. Young teams are better at home. They're not as great on the road. And yeah, we'll see. I really want the Magic to win,
Yeah.
but so far it seems like the series, the Magic can't win a game outside of Orlando. And if Mitchell is able to continue scoring like he did last game and some other teammate besides Garland actually makes a bucket, who knows? I think they definitely will get to the next round where the Celtics will definitely beat them. Well, it's a lot easier task for the Celtics to beat them than the Magic.
We're both picking Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm picking Cleveland.
So they have the countdown jinx on them where everybody picks them to win. That's good. I think IT pick Cleveland as well. So
Yeah.
everybody's on the train, but pause. But so good luck,
Uh,
Orlando. Good luck, Cleveland.
Shout out. Quickly looking at the other eliminated teams here. I guess we're in the East, so we talked about the Heat, talked about the Bucks. The
Wait, so make
76ers.
your wait.
Oh,
Oh, no, we're still in the East. Okay, I thought we were going to the West. Never mind.
yeah, quickly the East. 76ers. I mean, for Embiid's career, we've talked about the playoff round exits, and now he's out again because of several injuries that he had. Um, is Embiid if Embiid retired right now, yeah, I guess that'd be a question, about our Hall of Fame status. If Embiid retired right now, is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, straight up.
Right now, yeah, he probably
Yeah.
is. He's at the 5 All NBA, right? He has to be.
Yeah,
Or
I
he's at
guess.
4 plus a league MVP.
Yeah. It's just the resume is kind of weak. I don't know.
5
It's
All
just
NBA, 7 All Stars, 3 All Defense, 2 scoring
three
champs.
on
But
defense.
I mean, he was the last couple of years, he's been 28, 30, 33, 34 this year, 34 and 39 games. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
Embiid's a Hall of Famer. Put him in. Gold
It's
jacket.
just, for him to be considered near at the top and how hard people fought for him to get that MVP last season. And then to see him how he keeps underperforming in the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, I got a shout out to him for getting it out, making it out this year, just being there, scoring and doing what he needed to do. But it is definitely for me, it was a lot more fun watching the Tyrese Maxey ascendance
Mhm.
instead of, Embiid struggling out there.
But I don't necessarily think Embiid played poorly in this series because I think he was hurt for a large majority of it. I think
Yeah.
his mobility was definitely limited. There was times on defense where he would just like kind of be lunging at the guy like driving. And it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure you can like I'm pretty sure I've seen you get out there to block that shot before. But it's like, okay, I guess he's playing on that injury. He's just a step slower. But I mean, the shot making that he had for a couple of those games was, I get, some of the games was not necessarily on point, but like even that game that they won in overtime, he had 9 turnovers in that game and still finished plus 14 in the plus minus. So I think weirdly this was like Embiid's best playoffs that he's had.
Oh,
And
whoa.
I think the good stuff that he showed was like, okay, this is Embiid at his best right here. And I think the injury was limiting for him. And I think that the Knicks were actually like the second best team this year, especially with Giannis out in the East. So it's a bad matchup. They fell to that spot because of his injury in the first place. And I get that, and him and Maxey were like actually incredible in this series. And they didn't really have the role guy help around him, I think, to get past what this Knicks team was able to provide, where I think Batum hit some big shots for him. But I mean, you can just do your Tobias Harris bit now if you want, because this was like the perfect way to end just this whole saga of what's been this contract and the tumultuous run that he's had on this team, and to wrap it up with this performance. I mean, there could be nothing more perfect than this Tobias Harris way to finish it off. Pause.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what we expect from Tobias Harris. Yeah, I guess looking at the numbers, this is definitely the most points, I guess, consistently scored, probably average in the playoffs, for Joel Embiid. I don't know him. I mean, but getting out in the first round, is that, I don't know, in 6. I don't know if we could. That's an interesting argument to say that you would have him this as his best playoff run. But yeah, I mean, Tobias Harris,
Over
I
five and a
think
half
it's
assists.
generally. I know that is interesting, but I think Tobias Harris, I think it's pretty much well known around the league. Around people, you never know if Tobias Harris is even playing, if he's in the game. But I don't. Yeah, I don't. It will be. I am interested. Yeah, I mean, Embiid. He's just. For me, it wasn't so much disappointing in his play. It's just him taking care of his body and him being injured again. And this has been his whole career. Like, this is not, it's not just one time or a couple of things, which, no one could control, but just consistently being injured over and over and over. And, not being able to figure out solutions for these long-term effects, and, the palsy thing is, something you can't prepare for, but in terms of his knees, in terms of his back, just his weight, how big he is, it's just, this has been a constant issue for him. And, but this team may have the most optimism out of all the teams because, Tyrese Maxey really, showed that he can go up a level, and they have a lot of cap space. So if there was one player you thought could be added to, you think can be added to this team, who do you think is going to fill in?
Well, the Maxey piece of this was like you're saying, the most encouraging, but it was also like the numbers that they were putting up, they were getting a lot of Shaq and Kobe comparisons. But to say that Maxey is Kobe, like Kobe has the second half of his career after Shaq where he's getting the MVPs. But, I think we saw a little bit of that with Shaq. That's why they obviously, when they had to choose between the two superstars, they went with Kobe. But again, and I did compliment Embiid's performance, but there was a couple of games offensively where he wasn't shooting the ball well. And I don't know if Kobe had to do that with Shaq, like pick up the offense in that kind of way, where I didn't go back and look through the Shaq game logs to see if he had that struggling thing. And Shaq didn't necessarily, maybe in that finals that they ended up losing to the Pistons, but Shaq didn't have the injury thing the way that Embiid had it as well too. So Maxey to me now is just like, I don't want to call him like a top 10 guy that I'd want to have right now, but you especially think the contract that he's going to be on next year, it's going to be, I don't know what that rookie max is going to be bumped up to. I don't know if it's in the 40s yet, but is it maybe like, I don't know, like high 30s? If Maxey is like making like $37 million a year next year, I mean, that's incredible. When you've got
37. Eesh. I don't know if he's that high yet.
not even that high, what would he be at? Like 20,
Um,
32?
Let me see here.
I'm trying to adjust
Is
for inflation
he?
in my head.
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna get paid. Um, Let me see, what is Sport Track? Yeah, I guess he's getting the max. Shout out to him. He's definitely um but yeah, I mean, it is nice to see that, at least he'll have a um at least Embiid for sure has another star on this team. They just got to pay
IT
him.
says 35 million for Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, I guess. Jeez Louise.
So
Yeah,
I mean, that is a bargain for a guy that could essentially be a top 10 guy in a playoff year, where it's like, who are the best guys in the playoffs this year? Is Maxey in that group? Like, absolutely. And you're paying him less than $40 million a year. I mean, he's one of the biggest steals in the league.
Yeah, I definitely think getting him less than 40 is going to be huge. But yeah, I guess in terms of players who could fit with this team, I've heard some LeBron talk. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think
we
who
did
else
it.
is on the market. Yeah, I think we talked. We were the ones. There's some Trae Young, but yeah, I think the best player probably would be Paul George. To add to this team, just someone to, I mean, imagine having Paul George instead of Tobias Harris on this team would be crazy. We'll have to see if they can make it fit. But yeah, Maxey has definitely earned that max contract, and I can't wait to see him the next couple of years with Embiid whenever Embiid's healthy.
Do you want Paul George on this team?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've liked the Paul George
Yeah,
playoff run?
I mean, I think let me see here. It has definitely been up and down, but I think
Do you want a guy that could check out of a situation? Multiple playoff runs now.
I mean, he's actually been playing. Even if he is checked out.
Does Paul George look good because he's been playing next to Kawhi the last couple of years?
I mean, he was almost all NBA.
Sorry, PG. I'm not trying to throw all this shade at you, but
22 and 5. Let's see here. I mean, I think anything decent is an upgrade over Paul George or upgrade over Tobias. Yeah, no, he did have that rough game 3. Went for 3 of 11 from the field, 1 for 6. Yeah, I mean, his playoffs, he hasn't had a great playoffs. I know there's definitely been some highlights during the season. But well, I mean, you're not bringing him to be the number one guy. I mean, shoot, he might be the third option actually on this team, which would be good and as a defender, playoff experience. I don't know. I mean, is there another veteran you're seeing on the horizon? Someone else they could go out and get?
Well, I don't know who's all available as a free agent right now, but the thing is, Paul George is could potentially be a free agent. So they have the cap space. They could just sign him without making a move and trading assets. And he could be one of the easiest pieces to add. But I think Siakam might be a free agent as well this season. And I know him in Indiana that they made the trade for him. That might just be a set in stone thing that he wants to be there, sign the extension there, and play with Halliburton. But I don't know, like the Siakam Indiana thing, like that'll be interesting in the series against the Knicks. And the thing is, the Knicks didn't really have Anunoby out there when they were playing Indiana in the regular season. So I think that'll be a big advantage for them going in this playoff series and a big piece that, we just haven't seen yet in terms of how these teams match up. But I mean, Siakam has been pretty impressive in these playoffs. And again, I know that Bucks team was limited, but He's had some big second halves and some big moments where he hasn't put maybe the full games together, but at least he's been locked in. And I don't know, maybe a locked in Pascal Siakam. A locked in Pascal Siakam is definitely going to be better than, a not locked in Paul George. But again, like, you're trying to win the title next year. You're not trying to just get an upgrade from Tobias Harris.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess mostly that is an interesting thought experiment of, would you rather have Paul George or Siakam to win the title? Because Paul George, we know he has had, the runs to the finals, conference finals. He's had those teams, and that was when he was younger, obviously. But we know the talent is there. And, with Pascal, his one championship, led by Kawhi. He has been a solid player, but if you're trying to bring in a star who could potentially, the ceiling is higher, much higher. That's where I'd lean towards Paul George. But I don't,
I mean,
it
in theory,
is.
what he brings to your team is perfect. I mean, it's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
So I mean, Paul George makes sense. I'm just saying, again, and it's hard on that Clippers team right now because Kawhi is kind of setting the tone, and now that Harden is there, especially too, like, it might just be an easy, like, we've all been at workplace situations where, maybe the Culver's thing. I'm sure you've had days at Culver's where you shot 3 for 11, but I'm just saying it might be easier to do on the Clippers than it is on the Sixers, where, okay, Embiid, Maxi's my guy. We know if anything goes wrong, we got Maxi there, and it's just easier for Paul George to navigate that stuff. Like, he could just totally get back on track. But I mean, and again, it's like the bubble as well too was the other really big one for George, where that's kind of a thing where I don't really know how we can hold that against players in a bad way, where, it is kind of a tougher spot to be isolated in that. I know Steven Adams was having a good time, but not everybody was thrilled about it. So I'm just saying that everybody associated with that Clippers thing right now is stocked down. And I get, like, in theory, the player that Paul George you want is like perfect for that Sixers team, but I just don't know if I'm for bringing any of that Clippers bad juju into the room.
Well, and I mean, when you look at superstars who have been, not locked in James Harden or in Kyrie, when they have gotten into situations where there is a bit more winning pedigree, you can see them starting to turn it on. And, I guess James Harden, Clippers don't necessarily have a pedigree, but, we've seen James Harden.
That Clippers have an opposite of a pedigree when it comes to the playoffs as a franchise.
Exactly. But we saw him, he can turn it on when he is locked in, and we have seen the players, become more locked in. I mean, I think Kyrie with Doncic is a great example. They constantly talked about him getting traded or him moving, and the team stayed patient. And now, you see them together, with a chance to get to the Western Conference Finals if they're able to be OKC in this next series. So in my opinion, we could be concerned about whether they're going to be locked in, whether the players are going to be 100% bought into the team. But I think that in a lot of situations, eventually the star comes around. As long as it's not a crazy bad situation, the star usually comes around. And I think Paul George, if they can get for him a confirmation that he wants to come to Philly, they shouldn't be too worried. And I mean, for how many years Paul George has been with the Clippers, and he keeps losing his running mate. He has to deal with Russell Westbrook. It's just, I mean, I'd be checked out too with how dysfunctional this team has been the last couple of years.
Paul George is 34. Pascal Siakam is 30. Yep. You might be able to get Pascal Siakam a little bit cheaper too because of the all NBA things and the pedigree. I don't know if that factors into the actual max as well too in the actual pay scale for like the types of all NBAs you make, first team, second team, third team. But
yeah,
I'm just saying if you and me were running the Sixers right now, and this is like actually the point in the offseason that we're in on. Like we just lost. We're like, okay, we got to refocus. Let's look to free agency. We know we're going to have the cap space. I would just say, like, keep an open mind on Siakam in this next round for the Knicks. Like, let's just watch him and see how he does. Because I'm not saying we get into the offseason. I'm not saying you couldn't talk me into bringing in Paul George for the Sixers, obviously. I'm just saying, and again, I don't know who else is on the free agent market or who else would be available. Maybe there's a Mitchell thing they're able to, or guy, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, hey, let's keep an eye on this Siakam guy. Because if we have the cap space to sign somebody and there's any chance that we can sneak in a call before the Indiana extension, then let's do it. Let me actually double check here quick too and make sure that is not something that's already been done, because I don't remember seeing any news about that, but I could be wrong. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There's a storm going on right now, so
oh no,
we're having some Wi-Fi issues. We're cutting in and out. Let me see. Did we get a live weather check? Holy cow, lightning. Okay, yeah, it's not good out there. No, I'm just kidding. We're good, but
yeah, I do think that the 76ers should definitely look for a forward. Definitely not a ball dominant guard like Tyrese. I think it'll definitely get in his way. So probably not in the Mitchell sweepstakes.